Why was it the franchise route? Was it just because you thought it was an easier model to scale?
To be completely honest, was, I think it would just be easier, just created this model, get other people to run it. I think for me, the biggest thing was just at the heart of every successful gym, and for us in particular, every successful boxing gym, often the actual owners were on the gym floor, help driving the culture and help driving the actual experience.
What are you finding is the most effective thing? Is it just maybe different types of offers, or is it just testing a lot more creative?
Because obviously we're marketing to a local audience, one thing that's becoming more and more apparent to us is that when we have campaigns that locals can relate to, so it might be, for example, we opened up a gym in Ravenhall and there's a big Ravenhall sign, it's me next to it in boxing gloves at the side of the road, an ad like that for the people in Ravenhall typically will respond better than just like a generic ad like someone in a boxing gym with gloves on that's not specific to that location.
With your content, are you getting people inquiring about being a franchisee with your personal brand content at all? Or?
More than our company accounts.
So Darcy, thank you for joining us today on the Franchise Marketer Podcast. And you're the founder of HitFit. You're a young entrepreneur. I think, are you 29, 30 now?
I'm 29, yeah.
29. I think you've got 6 locations already.
That's correct.
For those who don't know, you're obviously the son of Darcy Ellis, who was a Australian boxing champion. I think you do stuff with Tim Zhu in his camp as a manager or something like that now as well?
That's correct.
Plus you're a franchise founder, and plus you're supporting franchisees. You're obviously a very busy man, so we appreciate you taking out your time today to jump on the podcast. I'm really interested to talk to you about what you do, because I think I've had a couple of young franchise founders on, and I think it's really, really impressive, especially in your 20s, to do this type of thing. I think it's not an easy business model to do. And I think it's very, very impressive. I had Michael Black on before, and obviously yourself, you're both under 30, so it's really interested in this one today. So firstly, how did you get involved in franchising and actually doing this as a franchise model?
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction, Joel, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. It was kind of interesting. I initially started my business not knowing anything about business. I just thought to myself, if I can make a living doing something that I love, that I'd be winning in life. So then I started a boxing gym. As you mentioned, my dad, Darcy Ellis, he was a 5-time world champion back in the day. So at some point I thought I was going to go on to be a world champion like him. Then the reality struck on how hard it actually is to make a living of being a professional boxer. At that time, I was training people just for fitness and things of that nature. And I found that I was a much better coach than I was a boxer, hence my transition. But yeah, long story short, I opened up our first location in Melton called HitFit. And then when that started doing well, post-COVID, which was interesting, we were open for 8 months, and then COVID hit in Melbourne, which, as you know, was an absolute show and very difficult to navigate through. But we did survive. And then after that, our growth just was quite amazing, and obviously everyone was quite keen to get back into the fitness industry. And then at some point, I always thought I'd love to open up more without really knowing how to do so. And then I got to the crossroads between, do you want to grow and scale with company-owned locations, and do you want to grow or scale with franchise locations, or a combination of both? And then, at that point, I thought, you know what? I am not that smart and not that bright, and I lack experience. So what I thought to do is put together a board of directors, which is quite uncommon for companies of our size. And effectively, I wanted to learn the lessons without the scars. One thing boxing taught me is yes, as the founder, as the CEO, you are like the boxer in the ring, but it really helps having qualified and experienced people in your corner telling you what to do. So yes, long story short, I put together that board of directors, and then I explored the franchise opportunity, and then 6 locations, here we are.
Yeah, because I had a look at your website. I was interested in that because I did see you had a board already. I'm thinking, wow, 6 locations, you already got this board. So it was more about getting that team around you. As you know, you have to have a team in your corner, and so getting a team on early on so that you can basically leverage off all their business experience before you even start on, as opposed to the other way, which is basically you start this thing, you might get 20 or 30 locations and you go, geez, I need some help. And then you go and get the board in place, or you get some other people in place. So you've done that first off.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned off, there's a high performance coach, Dan Pena, and he has it's called QLA, Quantum Leap Advantage. His method to building wealth is a little bit different, but long story short, he's first thing, he started a company, put together a board of directors. I think it's not for everyone. Naturally, I think it's hard to put together a world-class board of directors if you don't necessarily have large ambitions. There's nothing wrong with that, but obviously world-class people aren't going to want to be a part of something that's super small. So for me, like when I was boxing, I wanted to be, the best in the world, carried on that same mentality with what we're doing in the fitness industry, that, hey, I'm nowhere near there. I'm such a small fish at the moment, but I do one day want to become the best in the world at what I do. So hence why I'm talking to you guys, aka world-class board of director, to help me get there, and again, lacking the experience. It's funny that when you do reach out to people that have more experience, given you have the right mindset and you're thinking, long term, a lot of them are highlighted that like, yeah, 100%, like you're doing the right thing and like you don't have the experience, hence why you're talking to me. So, I'd love to be involved and help you in some capacity, So yeah, that for us was really game changing.
And then you mentioned lockdown before. How did you get through lockdown then? Because that was obviously a very tough time. Obviously, with where I work, we were pretty vocal about it and stuff like that. So, how was it? How did you manage to get through that?
Yeah, it was very tough. So I think, yeah, we're about 7 or 8 months old, our first location. We're quite lucky, even only, 8 months in, to have such a close knit community. So instead of shying away from it, part of our mission is to make people healthier and happier through the vehicle of boxing. So we're like, guys, like, even though the gym's doors are closed, unfortunately, due to all the crazy restrictions, that we're still going to continue our journey. We're still going to train online. And effectively every day, our community, we had, 30 to 50 people jump on a Zoom call just like this, and we train people at their houses, So obviously some people didn't continue training through that difficult period because they were dealing with their own struggles, whether that's, financially or mentally, etc. But that really helped, again, keep the community strong. And then once we opened up our doors, we had pretty much a full gym straight out of lockdown, which was awesome. But hadn't we done that, I doubt when we open up our doors, the gym would have been full.
It was a tough time, but great to hear that you were able to do that during that and keep going. 'Cause a lot of people weren't able to do that, unfortunately, and they had to close the door. What then made you decide to go? You mentioned company route and franchise route as well. So you've got your first successful gym, which would be your own one. Why was it the franchise route? Was it just because you thought it was an easier model to scale, or you didn't want to have, let's say, the direct, obviously more locations mean more employees, there's a lot more work. Was it just it's a more scalable model, or why did you decide that route?
Yeah, really good question. Initially, to be completely honest, was, oh yeah, I think it would just be easier, just created this model, get other people to run it. Very quickly, I was humbled, and a few $100,000 later, and all the document
Oh, really?
and everything that you need to do to create a franchise effectively. And then as we're going through this process, I wouldn't say that I was hell bent on just franchising. Before we franchised, we did open up another company owned location as well, and then decided to go down the franchising route. I think for me, the biggest thing was just at the heart of every successful gym, and for us in particular, every successful boxing gym, often the actual owners were on the gym floor, help driving the culture and help driving the actual experience. Like there is two, boxing gyms out there, really famous boxing gyms, and it's often the owner of the gym. He's the one that's the trainer. He's the one that's touching the community, etc. So you do lose that a little bit with company-owned locations when you as the founder or the owner aren't necessarily in the gym, that often, because naturally you're spread a little bit more thin. So for me, like the ultimate deciding factor was, I think the key to having a very successful gym is to have the owner on the gym floor driving the culture and driving the standards for that community.
That's cool. So your franchisees, are obviously the ones, they're always on the floor running the show.
Absolutely, for sure. And especially initially, like I don't think that franchisees have to do that all the time. Like that's how I started my first location, where I was the one doing all the classes and then wearing all the hats. And then after a number of years, I was able to step back and build a fantastic team that effectively kept them same standards and probably better. Our team are pretty amazing at our company locations, but especially initially, I found that to be, very, very important. And we didn't want necessarily franchisees just coming in and having that more kind of corporate mindset of, hey, I'm just going to open up this gym, put a manager in it, and expect it to perform as well as the gyms that has the owner in there, like sweating every day, rolling up their sleeves and putting in the hard work.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And I was going to say as well, first franchisee, what was that like? Because that can be quite daunting. You've obviously got all these documents, disclosure documents, all these sorts of things, and they're probably the most important person, the first franchisee, because if they're successful, that makes things a lot easier. So how was that?
Yeah, 100%. This was the advice I was given from the chairman of our board, Shane Byer. He effectively wanted us to open up a company-owned location, have our prospect franchisees run and manage that location. So effectively us as HQ, we would take all the risk, we would pay for all the fit out and everything of that nature, have them run it for 6 months. And once we were happy that the location was going to be successful and we were happy with the prospect franchisees, then sell it to the franchisees at an agreed cost, regardless of the performance of that location. So let's say the location did extremely well, we weren't going to charge them a premium because the location did well. They were going to pretty much pay for the franchise, what we had agreed upon at the very start. So that was our model with our first franchisees. They were actually, there was a family, one, the son and the dad worked for us prior at our company-owned location in HitFit Melton. So we knew them very well. They were actually family friends of my dad 30 plus years ago. So that made life a little bit easier because the trust was there. But also from our end, we didn't want to, hey, we're a new franchise and like go and be our test dummies and like put your life savings on the line if it doesn't work out, tough titties. So for us, we wanted to take the risk initially. And once we knew it was going to be successful, then make that transition from there. And yeah, to this date, they have been absolutely crushing it, which has been awesome. And naturally, when you have a franchisee that crushes it, that becomes your best marketing material. So we did give them a sweetheart deal, but now, because of them and because of their success, we're attracting a lot more franchisees into the network.
That's great. I was going to ask you about that because I saw one of the stats. You got one gym was saying 500 members already, something like that, which is quite amazing. So do you want to talk about then the marketing side? Do you do like a pre-launch for a new franchisee, like the 3 months to get members into it, or how do you sort of do that from a marketing point of view to try and get as many members as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we got our location, Melton, has hit over 1,000 members, and our second location, which was our franchise location, Uppers Crossing, they've hit over 750 members. Of course, seasonally it does go up and down, but yeah, both gyms do over 7 figures in revenue, which is quite rare, I will say. Yeah, for the boutique industry, like big box gyms obviously can hit them numbers, but for the smaller boutique gyms that are predominantly class-based, if you're hitting 7 figures, you're in the top kind of 5%, give or take, So our goal for all our locations is to replicate them results. But yeah, in terms of our marketing strategy and how we actually do that, us as a franchisor, we act as the agencies for all the locations, which again is quite not typical for franchise boutique gyms, just because of all the moving parts. Like there's so much going on as a franchisor. Then when you have to run the ads for the individual locations, there is a lot of moving parts. But ultimately, when we make decisions in the business, it's like what's the best for the franchisees? I personally knew how to run ads. I knew how to get the leads. I knew how to convert. So like, why would I trust another company or another agency to do that when I already know how to do it? So we run all the ads for the locations, and we are effectively responsible for driving traffic to their locations or getting people through the door. Once they're obviously in the door, then it's up to the franchisee to be able to deliver a world-class experience and convert. But a part of that process is we typically do a 28-day challenge or a fitness challenge of some kind, mainly geared towards, weight loss, mental health, things of that nature. We get a bunch of people together doing this challenge to build that camaraderie. And then through the process of, let's say it's 28 days, so 4 weeks, we get a chance to show them what they're all about so they feel comfortable to commit to a membership long-term for 6, 12 months, etc.
I think you mentioned something there which I think is really good because about running your own ads. I think it's important as a franchisor because they have franchisors in gyms, they outsource it. I do a lot of our recruitment ads ourselves because we have a lot of regions we own. So I do my own ads because I don't like outsourcing it as well. I think unless you know how to run it, you shouldn't outsource. I sort of think in regards, especially with ads. So with meta ads, how did you, was it just hands on the tools, just watching YouTube videos? Like what was some resources that you used to help you to run those campaigns?
Yeah, pretty much. I had a friend that owned a gym, and yeah, through the process of me starting my own gym and just like posting on, Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature, it's like, oh, have you ever tried to run an ad? I'm like, yeah, like I used to post all the time, It's like, no, that like actually running an ad under it. Yeah, 100%. What? So at that time, I wasn't very techie. I'm still not that techie, but I'm learning every day. So yeah, he was nice enough just to take me to a cafe, have a coffee, and then for a couple of hours, just run me through everything. He ran our first campaign for us, which was actually a 28-day challenge, which is the same offer we use now across all the locations. It's been going strong for 6 years. And then, yeah, just showed me the ins and outs of it all. And then I'm like, oh, the first time that it happened. And then 60 people rocked up to my gym one day. I'm like, oh, this shit actually works, And then, of course, like from that day on, I doubled down on it. And I was doing that for pretty much 5 years, running, like me personally running the ads, until recently we hired a digital marketing manager to do it all for us. And him having more experience than me has really taken it to a new level as well. So yeah, super, super important, obviously, in this day and age.
Well, meta's changing all the time now. So what's the sort of in the last year or let's say last 6 months, what are you finding is the most effective thing? Is it just mainly different types of offers or is it just testing a lot more creative? What do you find is working now?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Like our strategy naturally has changed over the years. And I don't know if this has come due to changes in Meta, but because obviously we're marketing to a local audience, one thing that's becoming more and more apparent to us is that when we have campaigns that locals can relate to, so it might be, for example, we opened up a gym in Ravenhall and there's a big Ravenhall sign. It's me next to it in boxing gloves at the side of the road. An ad like that for the people in Ravenhall typically will respond better than just like a generic ad of like someone in a boxing gym with gloves on. That's not specific to that location. So that on scale obviously has its own challenges if you have, 10 plus, 20 plus, 30 plus locations. But we try to do that. So then again, we can kind of help Meta know that, hey, we like want to target people in this particular area and try to resonate more with that local audience.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think localized content's really, really important. I think a lot of corporate brands in franchise, they're really restrictive on what they allow their franchisees to do, and it's always stock standard Canvas stuff. So we're really big on allowing franchisees to create video content at a local level, because FGC, where franchisee generated content, it's just a massive winning. If you've got franchisees who can create content, it can generate millions of views on their own accounts with their own content. It just makes it a lot easier for head office in your role, in regards to they can generate some extra stuff for themselves without you having to really be involved.
100%. And on that note, Joe, I'd love to ask you a question if that's okay. I know obviously you're big on, I consume a lot of your content and you're big on content creation. What's your advice on how like a business owner, when they are wearing so many different hats and they're spread so thin, how they can allocate the time to produce content? Because I know I was in that position before I found the value in content. I'm also now preaching to our franchisees to be like, hey, like you haven't posted this week, like you should probably post content. What was that transition for you, or what's kind of some, I guess, your advice for, new business owners that are just struggling to either find the time or see the value in posting content?
Well, I think I watch a lot of Alex Hormozy stuff. I don't watch a lot of Alex Hormozy. And obviously he's massive on content, but I don't think he likes doing it from watching the interviews I've seen with him. But he says he just, every week he has that 4-hour block where he just sits down and he just does ads, reads ads, because he just knows he has to do it. And it's just one of those things that I think as a business owner, you got to do your books, you got to do this, you got to do content creation. It's just a modern thing you've got to add into what you have to do. Like you come home at the end of the day, you do your books, and content creation in your week has to be a part of the business. If you'd like it or not, you just got to do it, I think. And that's the thing now. You can't just keep avoiding it, expecting, head office to do everything for you. I think you've got to get involved and do it. And I think the franchisees that I know that do it had the best businesses. As simple as that. Like there are franchisees who have really big accounts and might be TikTok or Instagram or whatever. They're not scratching for work. These guys are flat out. They've got massive businesses and they love doing it. So I think it's just a non-negotiable. And I think as a franchisee, if you get that early win where you're posting some videos and geez, you get 3 or 4 messages, which are actual leads from that effort that you took 5 minutes, like that's the reinforcement you sort of need. So our franchisees who do it on a consistent basis generate thousands of dollars extra work for themselves, and the ones who don't do it. So I think the way sort of I look at it, Darcy, we teach it in new franchisee training. I teach it every 3 weeks, and I teach social media and AI. And I know that out of 120, 100 people, I might get 5 who do it. But the 5 who do it, if they're consistently generating 100,000 views a week, or they're getting extra work for themselves or something like that, that's 5 franchisees who are going to have a far better business than the ones who don't do it. So I think just trying to, as a business owner now, you just got to unfortunately bite the bullet and just think, look, this is something I have to do. It is a non-negotiable. I'm going to suck it first, but I'm going to get better if I do it. And then once they start getting that reinforcement where they do get some direct ROI, when someone comes into the gym or someone comes into business, say, I follow you on this, or I saw you do this, etc., then that can maybe give some positive reinforcement to keep doing it. But I sort of think, listening to Hormozy, I just don't think he likes doing content. Even though he has so much content and he's fantastic at it, he's really, really good. I don't think he likes doing it from what I get the sense of. And he just basically just literally said, every week I do it. When I don't want to do it, I just have to do it. It's like training, for example. Like there's a lot of times you don't feel like going to the gym or whatever. You just have to do it because that consistency and that discipline over time pays off. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's sort of how I look at it.
Absolutely. And I think from my personal perspective, it definitely was that where like you think, oh, content creation, I'll just do it after. Then you actually get to the time when you're supposed to do it. Then you like either do it half-ass or you're tired, oh, look shit on camera, I'll do it tomorrow. And it's obviously something that you continue to put up as a business owner. I think from my perspective was that, as well as like how you appear on social media. I think people have like an idea of themselves, and then sometimes when they watch themselves back or see themselves back on a photo or a video or a text post, and they don't know if that's an accurate representation of like who they are. And I think once you're in your own head and you're looking at every post as like a final product, it is sometimes hard if you post something and then it doesn't get the engagement that you anticipate to feel very self-conscious. And I found the best way to combat that is to be like, well, like I'll review this process in a year, or let me just make like 200 posts, and at the end of the 200 posts, like let me review it and see like how things have been going and if it's worth doing or not. But if you're too critical of yourself, like while you're learning, like a baby walking, you don't criticize a baby for walking, you just clap the fact that they're giving it a crack. Often I think for business owners, just like make your first 200 posts, or make your first 300 posts. And then like after 300 posts, how you look at content will be very different to how you looked at content before you made your first post, and like you said, I think that consistency, just like training, at the gym, if you want to lose weight, you don't, do your first session and look at yourself in the mirror and expect to see any changes.
Yeah, I think some people are better than others. Just they get that point quicker, but anyone can do it. And we've got franchisees who were like, we've got a retired police officer who was 55, and now he's got the biggest TikTok account in Australia and never used your ME before. But if you look at his progression over 3 to 4 years, like there's a clear difference in the videos. And same with us from 29 when we started doing it. Our first videos are horrible. Like I hate cringe watching this stuff back now, and then when we get to now, so you just got to get those reps and you just got to keep going. But I think for business owners, once you start getting that direct, when someone comes in your gym or someone tells you, hey, I follow you on this, or I've been watching all your stuff, and that's the reinforcement you need. And you will get that as a business owner, but you've got to be in that. You've got to just put stuff out there to get that return, and you're gonna suck at first, but you'll get a lot better and better. And I think with franchisees, we actually do occasionally we do like competitions. So we do like in Jim's mowing, we do like a show us your best competition, and we'll give like a $1,500, $1,000, and $500 prize for the 3. Not say best, but like the best selected from our franchisors who judge on the content. And the great thing about that is we get like 6 months worth of content for basically $2,500 from franchisees. And even if we don't win, we like give them we put them on our social media, or we put them on our website and things like that as well. So we actually use monetary incentives, and the franchisees back it as well. Easy $1,500 for something they're already doing out in the field anyway. So that's sort of been good from us as well. But it's becoming massively important, Darcy. I think the brands who allow franchisees to generate content and the franchisees who really get behind it, it just accelerates the growth of that business or that division in gyms anyway. And we've got a division called Gyms Laundry Services, and 3 years ago, they started with 0 franchisees, and I think they're up to 135 now. And they go really, really hard on allowing franchisees to create local content. And around half of their leads come by direct Instagram messages to their franchisee accounts, which is not the normal in gyms. So it's a really big, important part of it. And I think consumers now, as you know yourself, Darcy, are a lot more inclined to message your business on Instagram or Facebook. So it's becoming a bit more, they're happy to chat with a business over that. Whereas before it might have just been the call or the Google ad or whatever. Whereas now it's more direct message. Is that something you notice with what you guys do with your gym locations, or?
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely seeing, that shift more and more. And I think to your earlier point, Joel, when I'm thinking about posting content, one thing that's really helped me in the last, 6 to 12 months is like, what's the oldest piece of content, in my opinion? Probably like religion and the Bible. And what's the Bible made up of? Stories. And obviously you tell them stories through different mediums, whether it's written text, whether it's a book, whether it's obviously a podcast like this, a YouTube video, etc. And when I've just realized that how much people resonate with stories, you don't necessarily have to tell a story that has like an amazing outcome at the end. Even just celebrating. We had a lady that like she struggled to walk from one side of the shopping center to the other before she started at our gym. And then since she started, she's been able to do that without any assistance. That story in itself in our community absolutely blew up more than like anything else that we've posted. So that to me just really highlighted that the things people resonate with is, hey, I started here, and now as a result of doing XYZ, I am now here. And that just progression in itself, regardless of what level you're at, people really resonate with. And I try to remind myself of that when I'm posting content. And sometimes when it's about you, it can feel a bit more cringe. It's a little bit easier sharing stories of others. So for those that are a little bit self-conscious, I would say start by sharing stories of those in your community. And I think it's not, even if you have, and I say this with full respect, let's say to me, a boring business like cleaning roofs or something like that. It's not about cleaning roofs, like that is such an important service and people have to do it. It's about the person that you helped, or about the old man or the old lady that used to be able to do it and now can't do it. And they feel like less of themselves because now they have to go and get support, or they have to start paying for it. The relationship you build with that person, or maybe you did it for free because their story touched your heart, and as a result, they agreed to say a few words on camera. That's more powerful than like anything. It's not about necessarily cleaning the roof. It's about the story behind it, and the people you interact with. And like that shift for me really kind of helped evolve our content. And as a result, like our engagement now has been higher than ever because we've been looking at it through that lens. Are you guys finding something similar?
Yeah, well, I think with us, we have some franchisees who do stuff with clients. So they might do like a job and they might do like a roof and they talk about the previous roofer did this and stuff like that. But we actually just find people like seeing that this oddly satisfying stuff in home services, right? So like seeing the job from start to finish sort of thing with a bit of a time lapse, a bit of speed up music, talking through actually what they're doing. So we've got a lot of good expertise in our divisions and stuff. If people might think is boring, is really interesting to some people. So like the building inspection set is a great example. Guys will just literally get their phone out. Don't even have to be on camera, but literally provide advice about damp in the home or something like that. And that can get like 30,000, 50,000 views. And the great thing about that is that organically does well in then do a campaign with that video, right? And it's a way more effective type of ad than your traditional, Canva graphics. So I think that's where it's sort of going. But yeah, I think people, whatever you're doing, doesn't matter if you're cleaning a roof or a cleaner or whatever you're doing, there's a lot of interesting components in your business. You just got to make sure you don't hide that stuff and you just share it, and then you'll find stuff that registers and you do more of it. But I was going to say, with what you're doing for your personal brand, you've got a great personal brand as a founder. Are you finding with your content, are you getting people inquiring about being a franchisee with your personal brand content at all? Or?
More than our company accounts.
Yeah, I thought so. So talk about that, because I'm big on this. I think this is a massive thing that franchisors and franchising, they just don't do in general. They don't have a founder personal brand. The CEO doesn't want to be on social media, and they try and do everything via a corporate account. And I think it's a silly thing to do. Whereas you're literally saying with your personal brand account, which you've got, you're getting more inquiries for that, for you being a franchisee and that, as opposed to the corporate.
That's correct. Yeah, I think obviously consuming content of people like yourself and Alex Amosi and obviously those that I look up to, they highlight the importance of a personal brand. And for me, for the last few years, I've been posting content, just miscellaneous or when I can or have the time, etc. No, I probably the last 12 months have really just doubled down on it. But yeah, naturally people resonate with people as opposed to companies. And for example, Elon Musk, I'm more inclined to buy a Tesla because I'm inspired by Elon Musk's work ethic than I am. I don't even know another electric car company, to be honest, because not necessarily related to a human being, but I know Tesla because of Elon Musk, So I think that in itself is really important. Seeing the billionaires of this generation, whether it's, your Mr. Beast or your Jake Pauls or your Logan Pauls, all the younger billionaires have predominantly come up through social media and social media marketing and building their personal brand. So for me, it just become apparent that all right, if we want to become the biggest fitness franchise or the biggest boxing fitness franchise in the country, I'm going to need to start to do my personal brand, and people are going to need to trust me in order to trust HitFit, And then since I've doubled down, we've sold the most franchise, or awarded, I should say, the most franchises than we've ever had. And it's something that, got a lot of confidence from, and just want to continue getting better and better at it. And back to what I was saying earlier in terms of telling the stories, I think when it's your own story, it's whatever, you just kind of numb to it, but always being subjective about yourself as for lack of a better word, product. And okay, what are all the things I've gone through? What are kind of my trials and tribulations? What has made me who I am today? And let me share them lessons in hope that someone else can relate to it, and that can actually help them, whether they're going to go on to become a franchisee or not. I think ultimately we're in business to help other people, and I think if you're able to do that, then as a result, out of the 10 people that you helped, maybe one wants to become a franchisee, but that works.
And with your content, are you doing it all yourself, or do you just do a batch creation and give it to your digital marketing managers and handle the editing, or how do you do it all?
Yeah, right now, all the content for our company-owned locations are outsourced. I'll just be a part of the strategy and the creativity behind it. For my personal brand at the moment, it is me doing everything, so that does take a lot of time. We have a content creator, so I might film something, or he might film something, then do all the editing, but it's actually me doing the posting at this stage. I've just wanted to be hands-on with it initially, how I've grown and scaled my business is me doing everything, me learning it, and then outsourcing it to someone who's probably better, or has the time or has the ambition to go and to be better. So yeah, right now it is me just doing it all, which oddly enough I'm finding some enjoyment out of. But eventually I would outsource it to a certain degree. But it's hard to be completely hands off with your personal brand, because no one knows you better than you naturally. So I think I've just accepted that it's always going to be a part of my day to day to a certain degree.
That's massive ROI in terms of you getting more interest or more sales via that than the corporate one. So in terms of an actual return on your time, it's pretty effective.
100% for sure. And I think too, from a personal lens, now that we are a franchise, it's I can make, 30 videos, and all I really need is a few franchise leads from 30 videos, because the lifetime value of a franchisee would pay all that back and some, So I think it is easy if you have a higher ticket offer. Whereas obviously if you are more localized, then if you're just signing up members, I made this video, I spent 3 hours on it, and then not even one person messaged me, I think that can be a deterrent for people. But again, it's more so playing the long game and not that like every video, not necessarily looking for a lead straight away. It's about building your social presence, about building your brand. And I watched the video you said before that you're still getting leads from a YouTube video that you made 5 years ago. So it's not that instant gratification when you are making content. I think people that look at it in that lens, like, oh, I spent 3 hours this, and then like these were the results, and it was nothing. Like people 3 years later might search roof cleaning, and then the TikTok video that you made, whatever, 3 years ago ends up popping up, and they click on that, and then they message you, you know? So it is sometimes hard to quantify where people actually come from. So like, I just think that it's like, it's great SEO, even on social media platforms, to get as much content out there. So then you can help the search engines, Google, ChatGPT, when people are searching a particular thing, the more content that you have, it's likely to pull from that and then recommend your product or service, you know?
You're spot on, Darcy. And I love hearing that because I think there's a mindset back, sometimes I used to deal with older people, unfortunately, sometimes, and everything's about ROI, right? We spend 10 grand on making these videos. We want to see 100 grand return on this 10 grand from a video. And it's just like, it's a bit hard they don't get the idea of zero-click marketing. So there's a guy called Rand Fishkin from Spark Tour. There's some awesome stuff around zero-click marketing. And you're right, attribution is harder. Like, you've got, you might have a YouTube channel with 50 videos, right? But then they watch all the 50 videos, but then they inquire on the website, and the website gets the attribution, but it's the 50 videos, or it's a TikTok, it's a social media thing that actually gets them to take the action. So it is very hard to do it unless you have a really strong survey process in place, which I do verbally with people. But it's just amazing hearing what people discover and how much they consume before they even inquire in the brand. So I think franchise brand or franchise buyers are a lot more clear now than in the past, whereas the past was basically go on a website, pull in your information, get the information pack, deal with the franchisor, and that's it. Whereas it's a lot more now. It's ChatGPT, there's TikTok, there's still social sniff, YouTube, podcasts, all that sort of stuff before they even inquire. But I was going to ask you as well, you've done a really great job from what I saw of getting PR, like, your current affair today, Herald Sun. Is that something where you used a PR agent, or you've just done it directly yourself, or how did you get it? Because I think it's a really good, like, even though everything's streaming and online and social and stuff, I do think that, that really high, that, TV, it does have that sort of, I don't know, premium presence about it. And, you can use all that stuff for social proof as well. And I do think it's still got a really good channel for awareness. So how did you go about obtaining all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. We got PR probably from a couple of things. One, me doubling down on the stories within our community. It is a little bit harder to get on TV when you have a positive story, unfortunately.
It is. All day, every week, I'm with my PR lady, we're trying to think clickbait. And you're right. You can't just go, 100 franchisees have signed up for training. It's got to be something different. So yeah, it's amazing how you've done it. So let's go into it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Joel. Yeah, it is that. And often too, you might lead with something like negative, like, oh, this is this bad thing. But then like throughout the story, like it turned to a good thing. So yeah, part of us just wanting to be, the biggest boxing fitness brand in the country, I thought it made sense for us to try, create that brand awareness. Getting PR and being on TV is another thing where it's like, it's a whole lot of work, and like you may not get even one inquiry from it. You just have to accept it. But for us, it's more about building credibility of the brand. And naturally, when we were on national TV 10 times this year, that like when you have been on TV 10 times, naturally people are more inclined to trust it, and it does build credibility, So that was a mindset going into it, how we've done it. I do have like, I guess PR connections or connections with people that are in, like 9, 7, etc., purely based from when my dad was fighting back in the day and the relationships that he has. So I was able to leverage them. We do work with a PR company as well, which helps naturally. And they do a lot of the legwork for us. But pretty much my model has been a combination of two things. One, finding incredible stories, but also two, when you're able to attach a somewhat famous name to them stories, it really helps. Like our PR lady, her name's Michelle Stamper, which is an absolute gun. She's like, oh, it's obviously fantastic that this person lost X amount of weight. But then when that person lost X amount of weight and now they're doing a training session with 4-time world champion Jeff Fennick, she's like, that's enough of a story. That's enough clickbait for then the news company to be like, oh, you know what? Like, let's run that. If it's only about the person losing weight, we've had stories where that still has aired nonetheless without attaching a big name to it. So I guess when we have ambassadors, a part of the HitFit brand. We've got 6 ambassadors, all world class, from people like, Tim Zhu, Jeff Fennick, my dad, etc. Some really big names in the boxing world. That kind of just happened again because I wanted to build credibility, but that was actually the best thing for our PR machine, because now I can leverage our ambassadors, attach them to these incredible stories with our community, And evidently that's been really resonating with the media outlets, and then when we do stories, they often do tremendously well also. We had one story of a lady who's 93 years old in a wheelchair that comes to our gym with her daughter and punches the bag in the wheelchair and has a never give up spirit and mentality. And that was on a current affair. And that segment was like 5 or 6 minutes and people were absolutely loving it. So combination of a couple of things. I did ramble on a little bit there, mate, but I hope that answers your question.
I'm just trying to think, people listening to this obviously have other franchise brands, and I'll get the question about starting a franchise brand. So that could be a good little strategy for someone like to try and help get more cut through. Have an ambassador on early on, whoever it is, if it's relevant to your field. Get an ambassador on if you can, some sort of name, so that when you do those releases, it can hopefully get some more cut through, or maybe get some more attention, as opposed to just, as you said before, just a good story about having that ambassador who's got some sort of celebrity or some sort of name that people will attach to in a business. It could be a strategy for people to try and do. How they do that to them, I don't know. A lot of the advanced, they might have the money to do that, like Mike Give Equity or something like that. But that'd be definitely the way to go, because you've done an amazing job with it. Because I think it's a really, even as I said before, everyone's going streaming this, streaming that, but I think TV and having those segments on a current affair for 5 to 6 minutes are worth their weight in gold, just from a marketing point of view and just from a SEO point of view. When someone go and Google you showing, they have those high domain authority links for Daily Mail, Herald Sun, all that sort of stuff coming up, and just makes a really good stronger brand authority online.
For sure. And in regards to the ambassadors as well, again, depending on if they have the means to do so or how they go about it. I do know a lot of brands where they have ambassadors and then they're just like a name on the website or a picture on the website. Your ambassadors are simply like content creators, whether you rely on them to do the content or whether you get them down, a couple of times a year and do content with them. You have to obviously make sure that your ambassadors are aligned with the vision. But I treat our ambassadors as content creators and, obviously use them to help push our message within HitFit, So I think if you are going to do it, then make sure there's a lot of work associated with that also. And you got to make sure that you're doing your podcast, you're doing your tutorial videos or whatever it may be to actually make sure that whatever you've paid for that ambassador is actually worth it,
Yeah, that's a good point. Because a lot of our franchise, laundry services in particular, did a lot of influencer stuff. And, they go and order their influencer videos. But I think going the next step is, if you get a small creator, maybe someone who's maybe, let's say, under 50K followers or something like that in the area, get them not only just doing some UGC type videos, but as you said, getting them into your business or getting them in to do more than just maybe the standard, create some, couple of videos a week or whatever it is. So I think that's definitely a smart thing in a way to go. And I think that just adds to the content opportunity that you can do and gives you a lot more value for money.
Absolutely.
And I was going to say as well, then with your business itself, so when someone inquires for it, let's talk about your process. Do you have an extensive nurture? What's your selection process? Let's go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for us, that's still getting built out at the moment, and obviously happy to comment on it. Funny enough that I'm working with Jason Clark, who you did the podcast with a little while ago. And pretty much because of that podcast, I reached out to him and said, hey, we're still developing this process. Yes, our acquisition process for getting members is really, really developed. Whereas this, it's still relatively new to us because we're a small franchise. So he's actually jumping on board as of January, which we're really excited to work with him. But right now, a lot of what we do is manual. We don't have obviously hundreds and hundreds of leads on a monthly basis. So it's more so someone reaches out, we send them the information pack, we give them content to consume before we even jump on a call with them. Once they've consumed that content, we jump on a call after they've filled out, quite an extensive questionnaire just to make sure that it's the right fit. And once we jump on the call, we just make sure that the values align and make sure that we feel this opportunity is right for them and vice versa. If we think so, then the first thing we do, we get them to be a consumer of our product and we get them down for a session, given they're in the same state, of course. So once they've done a couple of sessions, even if they're not big fitness people or they might be the franchisee, they may not want to necessarily be the trainer or the person on the gym floor all the time. We still make sure that they do a few sessions of ours so they understand the culture, more importantly, and how, after every round, people are fist bumping each other. They can see how the staff are interacting with the members. And then obviously, from that point, we obviously take it one step at a time before they're finally awarded a franchise.
What type of content do you make them or have them consume before even jumping on a call? What type of stuff?
Yeah, so initially simply would be our franchise information pack. And then we also send them all the interviews of our franchisees. I think it's one thing us as HQ saying, oh, hey, we do this, we do that. We're going to give you the best support. It's hey, don't believe me. Watch these 4 interviews and just hear what our franchisees have to say. So that's typically what we've found to be the most powerful, as well as, information videos on very simple. Like, what is the HitFit model? Like, why are we different from the others, etc. So a combination of them things are found, at least at this stage, to be quite helpful.
How long have you been franchising for? Is it a couple of years now, just a year, or how long?
Yeah, not that long. It'll be 12 to 18 months.
12 to 18 months. So you got to 6, which is fantastic. And what's your then plans? Like you've got an overall mission statement, which I think you said earlier. So that's basically to get to the biggest in the country, or like what's your sort of goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So without a doubt, we want to become the biggest boxing fitness franchise in the country. So that's our goal. Yeah, so anywhere between 70 to 100 locations would be our goal. Like, I'm not necessarily after when I say biggest in terms of like the most locations. I think it's quite vain for a franchisee just to like want to be big and just sell, territories for the sake of it, just so they can add, we've got, X amount locations. For us, I want to be in all the viable territories across Australia. And the most important thing is like, on scale, being able to have the highest revenues per location, the highest profitability per location. If that means we get to 70 and like our competitors, not only in the boxing space, but the fitness space, have 400, but all our 70 locations smash their 400 location, that's really what I'm after, because I do think at a certain point, yes, the vanity metrics are important and they look good for the business, but I just want each HitFit location to be the best performing it can possibly be. I'll never put growth before that. So to answer your question, yes, between 70 and 100 locations in Australia. Obviously, at some point, I'd love to go international as well, but I'm not in a position where I want to put the cart before the horse just yet. At 6 locations at this stage.
Well, I think what you said is the key, making sure franchisees are as profitable as they can be. And don't just put on sake of locations for the sake of saying you've got 100 locations. I think that's really great to hear. Now, with your franchisees themselves, like what's the actual, like how intensive is the training process? Where a lot of your franchisees actually coming from current members? Like where's your recruitment coming from as well? So training, and then who's becoming a franchisee?
Yeah, absolutely. So I might start with who's becoming a franchisee first, if you don't mind. All of our current franchisees have come from within our network, whether they were team members, whether they were former members, etc. So that's been pretty cool. And they obviously know the product inside and out, which has been amazing. So in terms of the training, it's been a little bit easier because we haven't necessarily had to teach them about our philosophy and our culture because they've actually lived and breathed it. And then beyond that, we do an extensive week of just obviously how to run the day-to-day operations. And then we do a weekly call forever, more or less. We support them on a weekly basis with whatever problems they're having in their business, as well as they're welcome to jump on calls anytime with different people in different departments, depending if there's something beyond the weekly call where they need support. So I think from my perspective as well, and having been in the fitness industry for a little while, that type of support is a little bit not typical, to say the least. I remember I was chatting to a franchisee of one of our competitors that before we became a franchise, I'm like, oh, what's the support like? It's we have an email address, and we like send them an email. I'm like, oh, cool, good to know. So again, our approach may not work on scale, but again, for me, I'm not worried about on scale. I'm worried about, hey, I've got 6 locations. Let me serve these 6 locations to the best of our ability. Let me make them successful before we continue to grow more. So that's our process. Again, it is that extensive week where obviously they learn the nuts and bolts, but like if I do anything for a week, probably the following week, I would have not retained all the information, So if that's me, I can't expect franchisees to know all that information as well. We also have a course too with obviously different modules, and that we can see that franchisees are completing them all. And then lastly, I would love to build an AI chatbot where obviously we can upload all the information to the course. So when franchisees have a question, they can just ask the chatbot, and then it can obviously answer the question based on the information that's in the course. So that's in development at the moment.
Oh, cool. And I was going to say as well, with the then the franchisees themselves, you obviously run the ads internally for member acquisition, or at the local level. What are the franchisees then expected to do?
Yeah, we definitely do that. So, and then at the local level, the franchisees are expected to, one, deliver a world-class experience, and then be responsible for converting, if we have someone, let's say, on a challenge or a trial, obviously convert them to a paying customer. We obviously provide the training and the support in order for them to be successful in that process. But yeah, it does make life a lot easier, because I know when I ran my location just as a single owner, I had to do the ads, I had to do the marketing, etc. Then I had to run the actual classes. Then I had to be involved in the sales, So effectively, out of the 3 main buckets, I call them, or the 3 main boxes, we wipe out the first one, which is the paid ads. Like we do obviously encourage franchisees to post organically, but if you've never ran a campaign before, learning how to run meta campaigns while you've just invested your life savings in the business and while you're trying to learn and do everything else is very difficult, And like, yes, I learned it when I was 23, but I was living in my parents' house and I worked 100 hours a week and woke up every day with a big red eye. So unless franchisees are willing to do that, it's so much easier for us just to run the actual campaign and they can just focus on what truly makes a great gym, which is the service on the gym floor.
And you've obviously got the format that works because you've run it for so long, and that's the thing's a great thing is especially when you join a franchise, that's what you want to just focus on, delivering the best service and customer experience possible. You don't want to have to worry about doing the digital marketing side of it, and that's something where I think your model is good in like that, because a lot of models aren't like that. I know Mike Andes, for a lot of the times I refer to in America, I really respect him, but his franchisees actually run their own Google ads and Facebook ads, plus run the landscaping company, and that works for them. And obviously that's how the more money they put in, the more they can scale. But not a lot of people have that inclination to do that or have the want to do that. And I think that's why the beauty of doing a franchise like yours is where they don't have to worry about that. Really, you handle it. They deliver the best experience possible, and that's what it's about. And you've obviously got amazing amount of members at these gyms. Like that's a pretty impressive number from some of the locations that I saw. That's obviously above the industry standard? That's above where your competitors sit generally, or?
Yeah, very much so. It probably, I don't want to name names, but one of our biggest competitors, and then from what you can obviously gather online, and like our gyms would be like double their membership base.
What do you think that is? Is that just the experience you deliver, or what do you think that is?
Combination of a few things. I say we're cheaters, and I say that tongue in cheek. Our superpower is boxing, and boxing is amazing because one, anyone can do it, and we also have a bigger market. So we have a portion of our members come from kids, and a portion of our members come from adults, and that's unlike the vast majority of the boutique fitness franchises out there. Like for example, F45 obviously being one of the biggest. They don't necessarily have a kids market, and not many kids wanted to do push-ups or like jump on a box, or like, is it safe for them to lift like any weights, So, and that's fair enough. That's obviously not a part of their core service, which obviously I respect. But for boxing, it is very much that, our programming for the kids and our programming for the adults are very similar in nature. Yes, how you deliver the experience. And there is obviously some things we do differently within the programming. For the kids, it's more an activity. It's more of a sport without getting punched in the head. And then for the adults, it's more as a form of exercise, but the fundamentals of boxing still remain the same. So that's one part of it. And then obviously, our acquisition model and how we run the ads and our onboarding process is unlike anything I've really seen in the industry on scale, So I'd probably say, the high number is contributed to them two things.
Is there many, like, do families do it together? Like the kids will come in and do it and the parents at the same time, or?
Yeah, 100%. So we do have like a separate kids program and a separate adults program, but we do allow kids to train with the adults as well, as long as they're under supervision and obviously they're at the age where they can understand how to do the moves. Often we might have like, 13, 12, 14-year-olds that like train in the adults classes that are better than a lot of the adults, so long as the kids aren't obviously of the age where they're disrupting the adults class, we do allow families to train together. And again, that's the amazing thing about gyms in general, but particularly boxing gyms where it's welcoming of people of all ages, where we'll have like families of like 5 and 6 in the corner of the gym. And like, that's their like weekly outing together, and they're all punching the bag. They're supporting each other.
I've never seen or heard, but that'd be massive. I think that'd be extremely unique to what you do, right?
Absolutely, for sure. And then, we have mums, dads, partners, and we have cousins, and then then like families become friends with other families, it's pretty cool how it all works out. But that's obviously at the core of our culture, having a welcoming community, and families being comfortable to bring their whole family down and knowing that they're going to have a good experience and not going to be judged by trainers, staff, or other members in that space,
Now we'll talk about you being an entrepreneur, because it's not an easy thing. I'm an employee, but I work with a really well-known entrepreneur, and I see how he operates, and it's just a different level. So I've got a massive amount of respect for people like doing what you're doing, because I think Elon Musk was asked about describing what being an entrepreneur is like, and it's like, just eating glass. He called it eating glass all the time, right? As an entrepreneur now, have you been going since 23? Would you say you've been an entrepreneur since 23, or a bit younger than that?
Pretty much, yeah.
What's been the biggest lessons you've learned over that 6 years in doing what you're doing, and maybe what are some things you maybe would do differently if you start again?
Yeah, I think the way I look at being an entrepreneur from my personal perspective, I very much leverage my childhood growing up boxing. And it's like, if you want to be, let's say, a successful boxer, not only do you have to box as an amateur where you don't get paid, it's very, very hard. And if you start at a young age, you're growing up, you're going to the gym every day, 2-3 times a week, you're getting punched in the face, you're getting black eyes, you're getting blood noses, you're going home with headaches, and like, you're actually paying for that experience, which is crazy, as an amateur boxer. And then, hopefully you don't get injuries. And there's so many things that can, come up where it may stop you from achieving those things. And then you turn professional, and then again, you're fighting, like I remember my first fight, I made $1,500. And like I trained 8 weeks for it 3 times a day. Like, it still costs you money, and you still lose money in that process, at the hope that one day you become the 0.001%, where not only like it's unlikely you're going to make a living from boxing, let alone achieve like, massive success and massive wealth. But every boxer that does achieve massive success has gone through that process, So that's the way I view being an entrepreneur. Like, it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. You're going to have to dedicate your life to it. And even if you do everything right and you do dedicate your life to it, there's still a very, very small chance that you're actually going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And once you're okay with those things and you just fall in love with chasing a dream and progressing and getting better every day, I feel like that's the only way you can get some type of joy and fulfillment in being an entrepreneur, And I guess that may be different from some people that, like you said earlier, that's a work a job, which was absolutely nothing wrong with that. But, hey, I'm going to rock up to work, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get Y, typically. Whether for an entrepreneur, there's so many unknowns and so many variables that the only thing that you can really have comfort is, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to work towards something, and hopefully I'm going to get a little bit better every day. And I hope that pays off in the long run. If you have the stomach for that and you're happy to live life that way, then 100% you should have a crack at being an entrepreneur, but just know it's probably going to be the hardest thing that you've ever done,
Absolutely. And where do you get your best learning from? Is there any sort of like, you mentioned Dan Pena at the start. Is there any sort of people you'd like just put on YouTube religiously, or what sort of people or entrepreneurs that you take lessons from?
Yeah, I think initially it was Dan Pena, and if you've consumed his stuff before, very, for lack of a better word, vulgar in its message. And like, if you're a bitch, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I think for me at a young age, like I just probably needed to hear that, to be like, don't worry about what you're thinking. You know nothing. Just shut up and listen to me and just do this, which again, I think for some people at a certain age, like you're in your own head. You obviously like have grown up. Like obviously my dad was a world champion boxer, which again, I learned a lot of lessons from him, but no one in my family really had businesses or like had massive companies or anything like that. So yes, I could lean on them for advice, but like my mom and dad couldn't tell me what I need to do to become a successful business person, So yeah, obviously like people like Dan Pena, etc. As you mentioned before, Alex Hormozi, especially in recent times, I found him to be, very, very beneficial to where I'm at currently at this stage of my life. So I would say, yeah, a combination of them two people. Trying to think if there's anyone else that stands out, but naturally, like I consume a lot of business content, from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos, etc. But yeah, I think it's just like for me, when I did open up HitFit at 23 years old, I didn't really know what it was going to entail. And then like just once you do it, I was lucky enough that I enjoyed it, and I love, working towards something religiously every single day, because it was very much like when I was boxing. Like you would have to be a boxer 24/7, So I think if you've got that personality, it's for you. But in terms of, actual people, I'll say Dan Pena really early on was very, very important to me, to just be like, shut up and just do it, and like to stop thinking, like know that you know nothing and you just have to do shit,
Yeah, people don't know who we're talking about. YouTube Dan Pena, and you can see, and you'll learn it in 5 minutes when you're just listening. But I was going to say as well, then with your scaling this thing now, is it just a matter of literally just generating more inquiries and more high quality inquiries? Like, how do you plan on scaling this thing over the next couple of years? I think it's great you said about, you want your franchises to be high, successful, and profitable. And based on the numbers I've seen, and you're telling me, I assume most of your franchisees are doing really well and really happy. So you've got the model, you've got the systems that work. Now you've just got to scale and recruit more. So is it just a plan of building out those nurture sequences and putting more maybe money behind some ads, or how are you planning on scaling this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan at this stage. First and foremost, you haven't even spent that much money in like actual ads for our franchise opportunity. All that's happened organically and obviously within our network. So that's obviously now that we want to grow and scale. Like obviously I want to grow from within our network for as much franchises as possible, but that's not necessarily going to be our long-term strategy forever. We are going to need to attract people from outside the network. So yeah, definitely first thing would be putting more money into ads. working with Jason to refine our franchise onboarding process. And then for me too is, doubling down on our content of obviously our company accounts, as well as my personal brand, and then really, really doubling down in PR as well. So for me, it's really important for like our brand awareness overall. At the end of the day, regardless of how many locations we have, we want to make an impact and change people's lives through the vehicle of boxing. Of course, the more locations we have, the more people we can touch. But if people see a 9 News story and as a result, they join a local boxing gym in a suburb where we don't have a HitFit there, but they've taken up boxing because of our content, that for us is a massive win. So that's going to be in the forefront of our mind, moving forward, just to inspire people through the vehicle of boxing. And I think if we're able to do that successfully and on scale and put money into ads and obviously double down on content, etc., that the growth will come as a result of that. I could be wrong. I'll check in with you in a few years, mate, and let you know how that strategy goes.
No, I'm following you because I see Bundaberg. So you got your first location in Queensland. So you've obviously based in Vic. I think you've got I think you're still on the website now, Maidstone. You've got Melton, Hoppers, Ravenhall, Tullamarine, Bundaberg. So first interstate franchisee can be a bit daunting. I remember talking to Jim about that when he went to Queensland the first time. He had no idea what he was doing, and the guy who bought Queensland as a regional franchise got a very good deal and ended up selling it back to Jim for a lot more money than what he paid for it. So first interstate franchisee, how's that sort of been? Like, has it been a bit nervous, or how have you managed that one?
Yeah, definitely out of all the franchisees, we put them through the ringer a lot more, or especially like my board has. We didn't have any intentions of going interstate this early. Elise and Joel, our franchisees in Bundaberg. Elise was actually a member of our first location, HitFit Melton, for a number of years, and we had a great relationship with her before she moved to Bundaberg. And then, she's seen the franchise opportunity and reached out. Honestly, naturally, I was very hesitant because I'm like, oh, we only got X amount of locations here. Queensland's going to be a completely different market. Even with our locations in Victoria, they're all in the western suburbs. So like Bundaberg, Queensland is like a completely different demographic of people, So we're a little bit hesitant. And then like just through chatting with them and like getting advice from, my board of directors, etc., and just making sure Elise and Joel have done all the due diligence in terms of like making sure this location is going to work over there. Us doing the same. Through that process, we're very confident to be like, one, we feel like they're the right people, and two, we feel like based on our research, this is a market that's going to resonate with the product/service that we offer. And as a result, it has absolutely crushed it. Two things, not only the market, but also our franchisees as well. Usually what we do, and we touched on it before, we would do like a grand opening challenge to obviously promote the opening of a location and get people registered before the location starts. Usually our budget is about $8,000 to fill up a few challenges. They've done all that organically they had zero spend, but we spent a total of, I think, $400 in comparison to $8,000. So that's a combination of one, being in a great market, but two, they've been going hard on organics or organic socials, and organic posts. So touch wood, it's been going well, but to obviously our earlier points, that's the power of social media, and they've been saying they've been wearing their HitFit t-shirt in like the shops, and they've been getting recognized for like, oh, I've seen your video. And like, obviously Bundaberg is a regional town that's very, a close-knit community. So word gets around pretty quick. So then like that for us and for them is like, oh, this content thing really works. Huh? I'm like, yeah, it does.
I love hearing that, Darcy, because I know Gary Vee on his new book did a bit about franchising at the end, about franchise and about the local area content stuff, and just the power of running organic content in your local area. And the algorithms are so good now of showing that content to people locally as best as possible, and just running, and you'll be. I love hearing that because it's such a reinforces what I believe as well. And just the platforms want to be more local now, so they're going to push your content algorithmically, locally a lot more than maybe what they did previously. And that's what I sort of get the sense of. So you can get at a local level, you can get a lot of reach in that area to the people who are going to hopefully be interested in your service or product a lot more than maybe what we would have got 2 or 3 years ago, where you would have had to run a lot, or maybe local ads or whatever it is. Whereas organically now, to hear that, it's amazing. I'm smiling with that because I think that's fantastic to hear that people who do that work get that reward. And just as you said before, this the power of social media. I think people underestimate it still, even though it's 2025. And I think just hearing that as well, it just warms my heart, because it's something what a lot more business owners need to start doing. And business people can build a whole business on organic social media, and I think they don't realize that. They want to spend money on
100%.
SEO, Google ads, all that sort of stuff, but you literally organic social, create some content, and you can get all the business you need. And that's amazing. I don't think I've heard of that ever. I've interviewed a few gym franchises before, and they'd spent a lot of money, obviously, before opening. I haven't heard of that happening before. That's quite amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, to your point as well, Joe, one thing that helped me and with the team and the team, our HQ team, like, oh, you need to build your personal brand, you need to post more content. Like, oh yeah, I know, but like, no, you really got to do it like every day, you know? And then one thing that like probably what I struggled with is whatever I do, I try to do it to the highest level. I'm like, oh, how am I going to be a Jake Paul or a Logan Paul? Like, just don't have the time to like invest in like that level of content at this stage with like where I'm at, you know, whether that's time or money, etc. And then I just thought to myself, like, instead of trying to be like a big influencer, just try to be like a micro influencer. And then obviously me knowing that, hey, I just have to like award a few franchises to like make this investment of my time and money, create content, like worth it tenfold, you know? So instead of like trying to get a viral video or like try to post some boxing content or like some motivational speech, like in a generic way, hoping that it like it catches on fire, the more localized, the more specific my content has been, funny enough, it actually gets better reach than when I was trying to go viral, you know? So to your point, and again, to obviously, you know, talking about the Bundaberg location, it's, hey, this is a boxing gym in Bundaberg and this is what we do. And that content has done better than just like generic content of, oh, hey, this is how you do this particular boxing move, you know? So for me, that's been such like a big shift. And it's funny that we're talking about it because I just read an article on Mr. Beast, who's like the biggest YouTuber in the world, his manager. And he's saying how like, now content creators and the algorithms are rewarding people that are very specific. So let's say I follow you and you talk about franchise marketing, the algorithms reward that because like if I'm your consumer, the platforms know that I'm interested in franchise marketing versus if you're just, you know, an entertainer of some kind or just doing crazy stunts, for whatever reason, it's harder to associate a product with that type of content. So I think across the board, we're going to see people like an Alex Hormozi that are like massive influencers, but known for their expertise in a particular field, you know, versus just like a generic entertainer. So especially like the way that AI is working and things of that nature, I think like knowing that leading into this might be like version 2.0 of what a social media influencer is, instead of like just entertaining people, now they're like really helping people with like useful information,
Yeah.
you know? So
It's a great point. And the interest-based media, I know Gary Vee's big on interest-based media, and you can have, you know, 10 followers or whatever, but create a really good piece of content, and that can now have the chance to still get 1 million views, whereas before your followers and stuff, that would actually matter a lot more. Now it really doesn't matter. But yeah, the interest-based sort of social media, it's gone to. You're right. It's funny. I posted on LinkedIn about franchise marketing, and now the algorithm within a year or two literally just shows my content to people interested into that. Whereas before, you might get a bit more random about, you know, people who comment and stuff. But now it's way more targeted in terms of, yeah, as you said, if you're interested in franchise marketing or AI, whatever it is, you're going to get served that type of stuff to try and keep you engaged in the platform a lot more. And that might change in a year or two, which it probably will. But for now, you know, if you post about that topic or that thing, the algorithms are so good at finding people that have interest in that and all serving that content. It's a really good time for social media. So with the franchisees with their content, what sort of I'll have to have a look at it. I haven't had a look at it, but I'll have a look at it. But what type of stuff were they doing? Is it, and then do you need to approve posts at your head office? You give them a bit of trust to do on their end.
Yeah, we give them trust to post their own content on their platform. Just naturally, like, you know, it's their gym, they know, you know, their members, etc. We have obviously guidelines and things like that we try to refer to in our training, and obviously moving forward ongoing as well. We try to lead by example with our company owned location to be like always be posting every day, making sure the content's really, really good. The main thing for us is the way that I communicate it to our franchisees, and like just act like Nine News for your community. So like anytime you hear a good story or anything like that, like doesn't have to be nothing fancy. You might shoot a video, you might just take a photo, you might take a selfie with them and just share the story of how this person, for example, was nervous to rock up to the gym and now they've been a member for 6 months and they've done 100 sessions. This person struggled with their weight and now they've lost their first 10 kilos. They might have lost their first 1 kilo in the first week. Like anything that you can celebrate, any positive stories that you can celebrate, like that's what you should do with your content. And it's actually so easy to like shoot, because like you're talking to someone, they're saying how happy they are and how your gym has changed their life. Hey, do you mind taking a photo? Cool. And then post it, you know? So that's kind of the lens that we encourage franchisees to look through.
Now, do you take that content and then amplify it from your end? So do you, that local level content, then you using local ads for there if you do need to run local ads for them, or?
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So if there's anything that obviously stands out that does, you know, relatively well on their organics, then it's easy for us as an agency to then use that, you know, as part of their campaign for that local area.
That's great. But it's amazing what you've done. Like it's very impressive at 29 to be doing what you're doing. I've had Michael Black on before. Michael Black's obviously a different sort of field, but it's very similar in terms of the energy and what you guys have done. It's quite amazing with your story. So I reckon 70 or 100, you're definitely going to do it based on how successful your model is with your franchisees. And I think someone like Jason, you mentioned before, is probably a great person to have him with BFT because he's obviously done that with international and things like that. So I reckon you're definitely going to do it. But is there anything else, Darcy, that I haven't asked you that I should ask you?
Yeah, probably one thing I would share, like me talking to my younger self, and hopefully anyone watching this, it can help them too, would be there's a quote that it's like, oh, sorry, this letter is so long. I didn't have a chance to make it short. And I watched an Alex Hormozi clip the other day, and he's like, oh, I spend 1.5 days thinking about the strategy for the content and then half a day of filming it. So he spends 75% of his time thinking about what the hook's going to be, what the copy's going to be, what videos is going to overlay and whatever. And then only 25% of his time actually shooting the content. So I think, like, obviously you want to be an expert in your field, but often you're not talking to other experts. You might be a level 7 in your knowledge, but you're talking to people that have like level 0 or level 1 knowledge. So you need to use your expertise, simplify your message, which is an art in simplifying your message. It's actually a very difficult thing to do. Become good at making a complex idea very simple. So then someone that's as an entry level of experience can resonate with your video and at least understand the concept behind it. Like boxing, it's very difficult sport. There's so many different things that you have to do, but if you can simplify it, and then let's say someone, whether it's content or whether someone coming down to doing a session for the first time, make it very easy and simple for them to understand and do. I think that's where you can really have some cut through in any product or service, So that might be my closing message, Joel, to my younger self and anyone that's thinking about making content, would be to just think about a topic that you have some expertise in, really make that message as simple as possible, try to communicate it in the fewest words and the most amount of visuals as you can. And I think it's likely that people will resonate with that message. And if they don't, that's fine. You're going to keep getting better at that process. You're going to keep becoming a better storyteller the more posts you do.
It's great advice. And I love watching Alex Hormozi's early videos. So if you go back to his videos, you can see the earliest ones he does where he just sits in front of the camera and he shares his advice for 15 minutes or 10 minutes. There's no editing, no nothing. He just talks about how to do this and how to do that. And I think when I watched that and you watch the progression over it, just to see what he's done. But the amazing thing of Hormozi, which is just his output, I think he's not, everyone goes, oh, you need quality over quantity. And it's just like, based on what he does, it's not that case at all. You need to get the quantity, get the data to determine what is quality, or for your audience determines what's quality, and then you do more of that. And the amount of ads and different amount of content volume he does is amazing. I don't know if have you ever heard of this guy, Caleb Ralston, his old video guy at all? So there's a really good guy I recommend people check out called Caleb Ralston. So he built the brands of Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi. And he does a lot of really good free stuff on YouTube. And you just hear about the process of when he worked with Gary Vee's and Alex Hormozi and what they sort of did, and just the maniacal obsession with just hooks and just, it's just amazing, and just how much volume they were running with. And then we've got people who are sort of hesitating, or should I post this, or is it too much posting more than twice a day for audience and stuff? And whereas the volume of these guys are pumping out is quite amazing. But yeah, everything you said there's spot on. I think there is real art in simplifying complex messages into simple ideas, and how you communicate that is not easy. And I think it's a skill where if you can master that, you're going to be ahead of the curve. But Darcy, mate, you're an amazing entrepreneur, 29 years old. To do what you've been doing is awesome. And thank you for reaching out and offering to come on the podcast. Much appreciated as well. But I think you're gonna smash that goal. I think based on how busy your gyms are, you've already got one in Queensland who's obviously doing really, really well. I think it's just a matter of just scaling now. Like, you've got the model, you've got everything in place. You just need franchisees who fit your brand and culture, which I'm sure you've got heaps of them already as members, and then hopefully outside of that as well. But I think world's your oyster, mate, with this. It's just a matter of the scaling journey over the next 10 years, and just obviously there's bumps and stuff which comes with that, and lessons you'll learn. But I think you're in a really, really good place. And I hope you do put yourself down for the Franchise Industry Awards coming up in June with the FCA. I think you should be a fairly good chance. So please put yourself down for that. And yeah, mate, just amazing to see what you've done. I'm really, really, really impressed with what you've done. It's amazing. And hopefully people, if you are listening to this and you think you can help in any way, or you want to become a franchisee, put an inquiry in and get in contact with Darcy.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate the kind words, mate. And thank you very much for having me on the podcast. And thank you for doing all that you're doing as well. Naturally, we pump out content also for selfish reasons to grow our business. But by being selfish, it's the most unselfish thing because people can benefit from it, So I've learned a lot from you, man. It's obviously great to connect in person or over Zoom. And for anyone watching, I would say, like, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Like, we hadn't had a relationship prior to me consuming a piece of your content and reaching out, So you might not get a yes every time. But obviously, again, back to like my board of directors, like a lot of people that I sent a message to read that and respond back, But I think, again, as you're going through this process, you're not expected to learn anything, and you definitely shouldn't put that pressure on yourself to be like, oh, I need to be an expert at everything. There's so much power in reaching out to people and asking for help. So anyone that may be struggling or is unsure about a certain thing in their business, whether they haven't started yet or whether they're starting and they're, reaching a particular problem, reach out to people that have been there and done that. And like, you probably save yourself a lot of time,
Yeah. And just have the humility, I think, just to do it and ask for help. Because I think the best people always ask for help. Like, I think people try and take on and have to learn everything and know everything. And you don't have to do that. I think the best people are the ones who realize I don't know everything and I've got to get people involved who know more. I think the puns who can do that the best and the quickest are generally the most successful people. So you obviously are way ahead of the curve with what you've done, and you're going to benefit from it. And I think you've got a massively good platform here to really build something huge over the next 5 to 10 years.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate your time, mate.
Thanks, mate.